Today we're at one of America's oldest ovals. It's round 2 of the Indy Racing League around the classic Phoenix Mile track where many have come to grief in the past. With a backdrop of cactus and cowboys and lap times of just 20 seconds, some great action is expected here at the Purex Dial Indy 200. Hello and welcome. It's 3 weeks since Scott Dixon won the opening round of this year's series over in Homestead, Miami. Now the teams have crossed the United States to Arizona for round 2 of America's fastest racing series. Let's take a quick look at today's headlines. Brazil's Tony Kanaan, driving for the Andretti Green Racing, has made it 2 pole positions out of 2 races this year. Britain's Dario Franchitti, on his first visit to Phoenix, is 9th, but says he has a good race car. While the Honda and Toyota powered cars are closely matched, the best Chevrolet engined car is that of Sarah Fischer in 14th spot. And Britain's Mark Taylor has scored his 2nd consecutive win in the Infinity Pro Series support race. And joining me to elaborate on those stories and plenty else besides are 2 of our regular guests who are both experts on the US racing scene. Lawrence Foster is the editor-in-chief of Autosport magazine and Autosport.com, and Paul Cherry is managing director of Force 10 Technologies, Britain's newest suppliers of racing technology. Lawrence, to you first, if I can come to you and stick you straight in the hot seat. Mark Taylor, another fantastic win in the Infinity Pro. What does it all mean as far as he's concerned? I mean, he's a youngster coming on. How good is he? How good is that series? Well,
this has turned into a great story for Mark. He did a couple of years of British Formula 3 and really didn't get the breaks. Took the gamble of moving across to America and really has taken the series by storm. Ovals are new to him, and yet for 2 races he's completely dominated, led every single lap in Phoenix. And better still as well, the team that Mark is racing for is the feeder team for Sam Hornish's Panther Racing Squad. He does a few more performances like this and you can probably guarantee that he will get the promotion up into the main team, maybe even later this season.
Is it a good feeder series, Infinity? We're looking at him in the Miami Pro Victory Lane place at the moment. I mean, it was a great drive for him, the first one out this year. Is it a good series as far as the feeder's concerned? I
mean, this has taken over really from the old Indy Lights series. It's a strong field. OK, fair enough, it's limited to ovals, but nevertheless, I mean, the guys you're racing against are every single person who wants to move up into the IRL, really. So Mark is doing everything right at the moment.
And don't we just love to hear the British national anthem in America as well? So to confirm Mark Taylor's victory, he dominated the race to beat the Brazilian driver Tiago Medeiros and former sports car driver Tony Harvey. Here's the top 6. So then, Tiago Medeiros 80 points, Brandon Irwin 67, Jonathan Irwin 56, Harry Luyendyk 52, Matt Beardsley 50. And that leaves Mark Taylor well in the lead of the championship with 104 points from the Brazilian Medeiros on 80 and the best American Brandon Irwin 3rd on 67. Now, news this week that an additional round has been added to the series, and it will be as a support race to the Indianapolis 500 in May. What a race that would be for Taylor to win. Paul, good to have you back here in the studio again, and nice of you to join us, of course. Now, Tony Kanaan on the pole again for the 2nd time this year, I think only his 3rd pole ever, but teammate Dario Franchitti down in 9th place at the moment. Why do you think he's struggling?
He wasn't struggling. He was quick on Friday, he was quick on Saturday. He just didn't get a good run when it came to qualifying, but as he said earlier, he's got a very good race car, and I think Tony's in the same team, and you can see from the speed he's done in qualifying that they've got a good engineering setup there. So I think he'll be all right.
Of course, this is a tricky old track, isn't it? I mean, this is the one that caught out Nigel Mansell here at Phoenix. It's a 1-mile oval, 22nd laps. He punched the wall so hard he knocked a hole through it. Why is it so difficult if it's only a mile round and 20 seconds? Well, I think both of you can come in on that because you've both been involved in this for such a long time.
I mean, the thing is that not to call Phoenix an oval, it's a strange shape, 2 different shaped corners, a bizarre semi-dogleg in one of the straights, so it's not really a track you can actually get a rhythm. It actually suits some of the guys who aren't really experts on ovals because it is so a case that you've got to drive each corner so differently, so the road racers don't mind it.
Just as Lawrence was saying, the road racers like it because you actually drive it like a road course. You're shifting down all the time, you're braking. As we've seen from the overhead shots, it really is quite a bizarre layout.
Well, they obviously like it here because Phoenix, look, is packed around the track, lovely weather, and they're going to be in for a hell of a race today, I think, 22nd laps. It's something a little bit special. Now, there was talk prior to the season that the Anglo-American G-Force chassis was going to be a match for the Italian Dallara at some stage, but what's happened on that? We don't seem to have we don't have our third chassis manufacturer actually out here just yet, do we?
No, MK Racing was a company born out of Kenny Anderson, who used to work for Ligier many years ago, and Mike Cranafus, who used to run Ford's development program for a long time in America. They went to all the trouble of producing a car and enticing people down, but at the end of the day, the market's very, very fickle, especially at the moment, and people have gone with the safe option, which is to buy either a Dallara or G-Force, which has plenty of track record, excuse the pun.
What about Falcon? What happened? I mean, we news too that Lawrence, Michael Cranefuss's company, who built the so far unraced Falcon chassis, may have been acquired by Lola cars. This is, I mean, the chassis dimension here in IRL really is hotting up quite fiercely. First we had G-Force that wasn't supposed to be a match for Dallara. It won first time out. Much, I have to say, to the celebration of Christopher Tate, who was our guest at that particular time.
And it would do.
And indeed. And now we have Falcon that aren't going to make it, possibly being bought out by Lola, who didn't actually get a chance, did they, to be the third official chassis builder. So maybe they will after all. Yeah,
I mean, if you look at the situation 6 months ago, Tony George didn't want chassis manufacturers who were racing in kart. The atmosphere has thawed somewhat, and expect really to see Lola in some guys in the IRL next year.
Well, we can see Tony Kanaan, the pole sitter, just there. We are going to be underway racing very, very soon indeed. But Tony Kanaan sits on the pole. Felipe Giafoni will be alongside him. Scott Dixon, last time's winner, is in third place on the grid with Helio Castroneves alongside him. Well, not much time then, really. We're going to cross to Phoenix in just a moment or two, where the temperature is up in the 70s. But before we do, perhaps we can have a quick prediction here from both of you gentlemen. Paul first?
I think it'll probably be one of the 22 race cars that are lined up there. Phoenix is a very strange place. I think at the end of the day, somebody like Michael is probably going to be my favourite choice today, because it's a place where you do need experience.
OK.
I shall go for the other two Andretti green cars, Kanaan, Franchitti or a Penske.
Well, I'm going to go for Helio Castroneves as far as I'm concerned. Well, as you can see, we're looking here at live pictures. Let's cross now to our Americans at the trackside for live commentary.
Larry?
Yes, it's a 1.6 kilometer oval. The length of the front stretch is 360 meters, back straightaway 474 meters. The banking is 11 degrees in 1 and 2, 9 degrees in 3 and 4. 3 and 4 much, much flatter and much tougher to get through. It seems like the cars always want to push down in 1 and 2, and they always want to get loose down in turns 3 and 4. The front straightaway only 3 degrees, the back straightaway 9 degrees in banking.
Well, they always come out here in the spring of the year in March or early April, because obviously winter is always a factor back in the Midwest and the East, and it's always nice and warm and dry out here. And once again, 33 Celsius, low humidity and a sunny forecast. But this is going to be a racetrack that will beat these drivers up today.
Oh, it will beat them up. And look at everybody up on the hillside. It's a beautiful day in Phoenix. Everybody always looks forward to this. It's kind of the spring break for all the racers in the United States. They come down here because the weather, as you said, is always so nice.
These folks didn't pay to get in, by the way.
Oh, yeah, they do now. They set up on that hill. They charge them up there. They used to let them in free. They don't do that
The owners got wise, right?
That's right. 322-kilometer race, 200 miles. The pole sitter is Tony Kanaan at just over 20 seconds, 20.1667. The 2002 champion, Helio Castroneves, who went on to win the Indianapolis 500. And the fuel range, 65 to 72 laps. I think some of the Hondas and Toyotas might even be able to go farther than that.
Some of the Chevys may not go quite that far, as we're about to give you the starting lineup. 22 starters in today's field. As we mentioned, Michael Andretti's last race here at Phoenix. His dad has won this race 3 times, and Mario finished second on 8 occasions.
Yeah, we're taking a look there at one of the Roger Penske cars. These, of course, Roger Penske, they call him the captain, and the reason they do is because he's on top of everything when it comes to his race teams. He's always been the man to beat when you go to Indianapolis, and believe me, right now they came to this racetrack to win, but they came here also to learn what they have to do to go to Indianapolis to try to win that race.
Castroneves has won the last 2 Indy 500s, and he could become the first driver ever to win 3 in a row. We've had some drivers in the past that have won back-to-back, including Al Unser Sr. in 70 and 71, and of course late Bill Vukovic in 53 and 54. But pretty tough to win it back-to-back, let alone 3 in a row.
Well, believe me, he knows that it's going to be a difficult task.
Well, there was the command as 22 engines fire to life. Tony Kanaan will occupy the inside the front row alongside Felipe Giafoni. Scott Dixon, the winner 3 weeks ago at Homestead, and Elio Castronevich will start outside the second row. In the third row, Michael Andretti and Kenny Brack. As we would much prefer to have these drivers introduce themselves to you, and that's one of the highlights that we'll have throughout the season. Instead of us giving you the starting lineup from front to back, we'll have a chance to take a look there at Sarah Fischer. We'll have a chance to hear all the drivers introduce themselves and say where they come from, their hometown. So once again, here he is, your starting lineup.
Tony Kanaan, São Paulo, Brazil.
Felipe Giafoni, São Paulo, Brazil.
Scott Dixon, Auckland, New Zealand. Elio Castronevich, São Paulo, Brazil.
Michael Andretti, Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Kenny Brack from Karlstad, Sweden.
Gil de Ferran, São Paulo, Brazil.
Thomas Schechter, South Africa.
Dario Franchitti, Edinburgh, Scotland.
Roger Yasukawa, West Hollywood, California.
Scott Sharp, Wilton, Connecticut.
Jacques Lazier, Alta Loma, California.
Takagi, Tokyo, Japan.
Sarah Fischer, Commercial Point, Ohio.
Buddy Lazier, Vail, Colorado.
Buddy Rice, Phoenix, Arizona.
Sam Hornish Jr., Defiance, Ohio.
Shige Hattori, Okayama, Japan.
Robbie Buell, Cleveland, Ohio.
Al Unser Jr., Albuquerque, New Mexico.
AJ Foyt IV, Hockley, Texas.
Scott Mayer, Franklin, Wisconsin.
Well, they have some good experience near the back of the pack with Sam Hornish well off the qualifying pace. So was Robbie Buell and Al Unser Jr. We'll watch for them to make their way through the pack from near the back. As the cars are away and lining up there on the backstretch, headed in that 9-degree banking. Actually, the backstretch is also banked at 9 degrees. So a very, very unique racetrack. It's very difficult to get the car set up, as you alluded to earlier. That will work well on both ends.
Well, it's not a true oval. It does have a dog leg in the back straightaway, and you're almost in a constant turn all the way around this racetrack.
That's why on a hot day like we have today, although the humidity is off, these drivers will get a workout. Jacques Lazier will be starting back in the 12th position. He'll carry one of the onboard cameras. There's a good look as they come off turn 4 and head down this straightaway with a good crowd on hand here at Phoenix. And you'll see the suites off to the left. Outside turn 1, there's Sam Hornish. He's starting way back in 17th position.
Yeah, but he probably hasn't started that far back in the field since he was driving quarter midgets when he was about 10 years old, because
won this race back in 2001. As you look back off of Scott Sharp's car, now you're looking out the front. He'll start in the 11th position. Sharp won this race back in '98. Was involved in a crash in this section of the racetrack here last season. Now this is like 3-degree banking into 9 as they head into the third turn. There's a look from the back of Scott Dixon's target machine. He'll be starting in the 3rd position inside row 2, and Tony Kanaan for the 2nd straight race will be starting from the pole position. As you continue to look back at the field, they're still somewhat ragged because we'll have one more lap to go. Here's Tony Kanaan.
You can see that tube going into his helmet so he can get some liquid into himself while he's driving the car.
Let's look at Robbie Buell. Robbie Buell starts near the back of the pack, starting in 19th position out of a 22-car starting field. They have one lap to get this starting order in line. Good look at the press facilities outside turn 1 and the condos and hospitality suites outside turn 2. This has just been a staple in IndyCar racing. This has just been a tradition. The oldest track next to Indianapolis that they run on right now.
Yes, and you can see that dog leg, that little yellow cement pad on the inside. That was the dog leg. That wasn't actually a corner. They call it a dog leg, but believe me, it's not straight, and you've got to be ready as they're all lined up 2 by 2 coming down for the start.
59th time the Indy cars will take the green flag for the Copper World Classic here at Phoenix International Raceway. Tony Kanaan will bring them off the corner. They pick up the RPMs. Ryan Howard has the green flag in hand, and right away they start going 4 wide down the front straightaway, and look at that move by Scott Dixon.
Looked like Tony Kanaan did not get up to speed. He held Giafoni back. The guys behind got a big jump on him, and Scott Dixon jumped from 3rd to 1st very quickly, and Kanaan still doesn't seem like, oh, now he's up to speed.
Well, Scott Dixon may have been a surprise for many at Homestead, but he won't be a surprise from here on out.
No, he will not. He's a very, very capable racer. Grew up in New Zealand and ran. Actually, his father owned a racetrack in Townsville, Australia for a while. Oh, look at this!
Right there with the Penske cars. It's going to take. Did he get by? It looked like one Penske car was going to take the other Penske car out. And immediately we have a yellow. And then something happened behind them.
Yeah, that looked like somebody else. Everybody, once that happens up front, everybody backs off. And if you're way back, you can't see. You can't see over the wings. You can't see what's happening in front of you. So when everything starts backing up to you, sometimes you just have to head for the infield to miss everything.
Well, that was Jill DeFerrin that had the problem. Jill DeFerrin wiggled just a bit, tried to collect it, and almost took his teammate out at the same time.
Yeah, he went around Castroneves on the outside going into through the corner, and then he just got too high. The back end wiggled, and once it wiggled, he went around and was lucky he didn't take about a half a dozen guys with him, because he was right in the middle of the racetrack.
But it looks like it may have been Toru Takagi that got the worst into that. He was in behind that melee toward the back of the pack and spun down to the inside and had some rear wing damage. But now watch to begin with. You'll see the DeFerrin car wiggle just a bit, and he tries to collect it. And when he does that, he loses it. There's still some activity down there on the inside as they will push this field to the high side to get by this accident scene.
Yeah, they're trying to get everything cleaned up, trying to get everything off the racetrack as quick as they can. We'll have a replay here as soon as they get it ready. Here you can see right up there. He just got too high. He turned it down. Look at that. Everybody barely missing him. Castroneves barely missed him. 3 or 4 cars. There's Takagi down on the inside, who obviously just bent it left to try to get around. But you can see here, he got in low, and he just lost it. Just the back end got loose. He almost saved that thing. He was very high on the racetrack when it finally let go. But look at this. 2 guys.
They split the difference.
I'm not sure that Castroneves didn't brush the wall up there. He was so close.
I think that was Franchitti that went low in the 27 car.
Look at
that
this.
Blue car.
Castroneves he heads for the wall. Look at this great camera shot. As Castroneves barely, he was about 2 feet away, but
missed the wall. He went to the high side. Franchitti went to the low side, and man, that was some split-second decision making right there.
Right now, Roger Penske's got to think, man, not only am I pretty good, I'm pretty lucky too. Both those guys are still able to run.
So once again, we're under yellow. 4 laps now complete under yellow early in this 200-lap event here at Phoenix International Raceway. Here is the start of the race again with Scott Dixon getting that good move to the inside. They're getting 2, 3, 4 wide down the front straightaway.
You can see that was Jill DeFerrin that went way wide on the outside. He got a great start. He picked up several spots on that first start, but the second time through turn 1 and 2, he wasn't quite so lucky.
There's Tony Kanaan in the Big Gulp 711 car, that green and white car, back in 3rd position for this restart. Scott Dixon continues to lead it over at Giafoni. Then Kanaan, Brack, Thomas Schechter has moved up to 5th position on the initial start of this race as we remain under yellow here at Phoenix.
You rejoin us for the Purex Dial Indy 200s from Phoenix in Arizona, where we've just gone green. Here's Larry Rice and Gary Lee at trackside.
Wow, he thought better of it right there. He backed out of that.
Castroneves is behind Schechter there. We miscalled. We saw him go around Franchitti, and we got around Breck, and now he's tucked in behind Schechter. We miscalled that. We talked about the paint job that was changed, but it wasn't. It's still a red and white. Car number 10. So look at that. Schechter's picked up 4 positions. But look at Al Unser Jr. We talked about how exciting it would be to watch these guys in the back of the pack, and Al has moved to 9th position, picked up 11 positions on the start.
Yeah, he certainly has. Al Unser Jr. likes this racetrack. He runs good at this racetrack, and obviously he must have had a really lousy qualifying time for whatever reason, and certainly has picked up the pace here.
And look at this side-by-side competition through the corner. Now you can run side by side, but you have really got to trust the guy you're up against.
Yeah, Unser right there. They made a nice move down in turns 1 and 2. Like I said, there's a little more banking. You can make that move on the outside a little easier down there than you can down in 3 and 4.
Riding along with Sam Hornish Jr. right now, back in 11th position. Hornish started in 17th, so he's picked up 7 spots. And he's one of the best guys in traffic on this racetrack, or any racetrack for that matter. And they've always had that car set up to run a little higher on the racetrack than other drivers.
Yeah, look at Yasukawa. He went back by Al Unser Jr. He got a big run on him coming off of turn 1 and 2. And Hornish followed him through. So Unser lost 2 spots on that little skirmish.
Here comes Unser. Had a look to the inside. No room down there. And Hornish begins to pull away.
And you can see when you have to get out of the throttle how much space on the racetrack you lose. He had to get out of the throttle. He tried to get under Hornish. And when he did, he had to hit the brakes. And when he did, he lost all of his momentum and a lot of space.
What Hornish has to work on is just not letting the frustration get to him. He's the champion the last 2 years. He's won here, but he's with Chevrolet Power this season, and they're off, as we've documented, on horsepower, on fuel mileage, and that puts him, as they say in this country, behind the 8 ball.
Well, you can see Buddy Lazier is in that white car following Al Unser Jr. He was up. He had a run on Al Unser Jr., but when they got to the straightaway, Unser just pulled him by about a car length. So there's nothing you could do.
Well, Lazier won here.
Oh, you can see DeFerrin now as he moves up.
I would say that Lazier won here back in 2000. This was also where he broke his back in '96 in a practice crash and came back about a month and a half later to won the Indy 500.
Yes, he's never let that crash here bother him, though. He's never made it. He's never been afraid of this place. He's come back to run very, very strong here. And you know, I've seen him have a couple other crashes. He had a crash here with Eddie Cheever too that wasn't very good, but he still likes this racetrack.
But as he said to us earlier this weekend, was not happy with where he qualified, but yet he was knocking off the rust because these other cars have all tested, and he's had like a day and a half with this car. The Himmelgarten crew got the car late, did not make the race at Homestead, and he's had very little testing in this car.
Yeah, he's had very, very few. Well, the laps he's had here are the only laps he's had, I believe. They didn't get the car together until, like you said, just after Homestead. They came down here and ran, but very, very few laps in this race car. Obviously, he's doing a great job in it. And look how quick he gets through the corners. He's really getting through 1 and 2 extremely well, but down in 3 and 4 and down the straightaways, DeFerrin's just gobbling him up.
Well, he qualified 16th, running, I think, 12th now. And when he did win here in 2000, they were not happy with their qualifying effort, and they withdrew the car, took the backup car off the trailer, and put it at the back of the pack, and he won the race.
Yeah, started dead last and came up to win the race. So that tells you that he not only likes this place, but he's very, very good in traffic. If you can pass that many guys during the race and win it, you're doing a heck of a job.
Traffic strung out almost all the way around this racetrack. They've completed 21 laps now of a 200-lap event. It will be at least a 2 pit stop race for the Hondas and Toyotas, and perhaps even a 3 pit stop race for the Chevrolets.
There's Castroneves. Rack got a lap car. Rack used that lap car as a pick. Castroneves had no choice but to get out of the throttle and let him go, because if he doesn't, he was going to run right up the backside of that car, so he had to let him go.
And that's the type of traffic that we're talking about. And on a small racetrack, if you're on a big racetrack or even on a road course, you want to catch traffic at a certain point. Right here, it's tough to catch him at a good point.
Yeah, it certainly is.
There aren't that many good points on a mile track. Now there's a look at Schechter in 4th position, car number 10, and Castroneves back there in 5th. Schechter, of course, driving for the Ganassi Target team this year. Moved over after a somewhat contentious season last year with Eddie Cheever, where he won 1 race. Had 3 pole positions, but also had a number of crashes and some differences in attitude with the owner.
Yeah, he and Eddie Cheever just didn't get along at all, but he's done a nice job. He did a nice job last year. The worst mistake he made all last year was when he crashed in Indianapolis, and that was just a lack of concentration near the end of the race. He should have won that race, actually.
I'll tell you, his mom, Pam, hates it when they race out on the west coast of the Americas, because it makes the race so late South Africa time, and she always has a big gathering at her house to watch the race live. But it's a little after midnight, I think, in Cape Town right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Castroneves. He was who caught Schechter, couldn't pass him a while ago, and now then he's fallen back several car lengths.
There's a look at Scott Dixon, who has led from the start of this event. He got that good start, moved to the inside of the pole position man, Kanaan, and took the lead as he completes lap number 27 with Giafoni in second position. Then Kanaan, Schechter, Castroneves, Brack, and Andretti. Ride down into turn 3, the 9-degree banking under the walkway there.
Now then, Castroneves has caught back up with Schechter in the lap traffic, but it seems like Schechter's being a little bit more cautious when he comes to the lap traffic, and that's when Castroneves catches him. And then as soon as he clears the lap traffic, then he pulls back away from Castroneves. He was very cautious as he went around that lap car. Now then, once he got around, he's pulled Boyd a several car length lead.
Thomas Schechter from Cape Town, South Africa, but he lives now in Indianapolis.
Being told that Toru Takagi has been released from the medical center. He is okay, so that's good news. Didn't appear that he had a very hard crash down on the inside, but he certainly tore up the equipment as that big melee happened down there in turn 2 actually.
He'll enjoy going home to his home country in about 3 weeks as we make the first trip outside the continental United States for the Indy Racing League, the IndyCar Series.
Right.
The twin ring Taggy track. And of course, following that will be the annual pilgrimage back to Indianapolis for the Indy 500.
Yeah, that's AJ. Whoa!
A car up in the wall,
that's
and it's
Sam
Hornish. Sam Hornish. Boy, Sam brings out the second of the afternoon. Second yellow is Hornish.
He's moving around in the cockpit, so that's always good news. That means he's okay. He's throwing the wheel out. He's throwing out his protection around his neck brace.
Highly unusual for this race driver, this race team.
Well, AJ Foyt the fourth was up there, and they were lap cars trying to get around him, and I think maybe that's only speculation on my part. Oops, he's not happy with somebody.
He's gesturing to somebody.
Yeah, somebody out there, we'll probably see in a replay here in a few seconds that what happened, but he's not a real happy guy right now.
Of course, that car has some extensive damage, so although they can work on the cars in the pits and in the garage area, they won't bring that one back on the racetrack this afternoon. We are under yellow here at Phoenix International Raceway with Sam Hornish Jr.'s number 4 Pennzoil Panther car up against the wall. He is okay. He climbs in the safety vehicle there. And this is the second yellow of the afternoon that comes on lap 32, which means we're going to see some, I would say, some pit stops. It's really early for the pit window, but some of these lead cars may take advantage of this yellow. And we'll try to take a look at exactly what happened to Sam Hornish over there in turn 4.
There you can see he's on the outside. Oh,
there is contact.
Yeah, AJ Foyt, the fourth, looked like he moved up the racetrack, or Sam Hornish came down. We couldn't really tell from that camera angle, but obviously Sam Hornish believed that he was moved, that Foyt moved up on him and hit him in the left rear. But definitely, somehow, his left rear made contact with Foyt's right front, which immediately turned him around. And did you see how far off the ground that car got when it hit the wall? I mean, it hit a ton. That's the good thing about these cars, though, that those wheels absorb a lot of energy. If he hit that thing without that absorption of energy, it would have been very, very tough on him.
And the pits are open as we have a split screen there. You see Dixon at the top. Got those flip-flops at the bottom. Giafoni's at the top.
Everybody heading into the pit area, and you can see
there's
right
Tony
there.
Kanaan.
He went into the pits in third position. Pit stops obviously very, very important. Scott Dixon. Oh,
look at that.
Giafoni beat him out.
Giafoni got out. The Mo Nunn apparently got Giafoni out, but what's Scott Dixon going to do?
Well, he thought he was going to try to get the lead, but it appeared that Giafoni beat him out of the pit area, and that'll give him the lead. We started to say how important these pit stops are, and right there you can see it. Made the difference between who's leading and who's running second, and obviously it helped Scott Dixon win the race last week. As a matter of fact, there is a new rule this week because of what happened last race at Miami. Scott Dixon kind of moved down the racetrack and almost passed the leader in the pit lane. Now then they're telling everybody they have to stay nose to tail down that pit lane.
All right, here comes the pit action again. And Giafone motors by.
Oh yeah, he's by him before they get to that line. So
Giafone had a head of steam up there before he got to where the other car was pulling out. So under yellow here at Phoenix, we've gone 35 of 200 laps out here in the desert.
Welcome back. This is round 2 of the Indy Racing League Series. We're on our second yellow of the race. Roger Yasukawa leads because he didn't take advantage of a possible pit there. We're about to go green. Felipe Giafone pinched a place in the pits, and Dario Franchitti is up to 6th place. Let's go back to our commentary team at trackside then. Larry Rice and Gary Lee.
We'll get a look at it a little later.
See how long it takes them to dispatch with young Roger.
Well, it looks like about, what, 100 yards, would you say?
It didn't take that long.
Because
he almost moved down, though. I don't think he was expecting him to come by on the inside, and he almost moved down. Oh, look at the wiggle.
Giafone did a big-time wiggle. That doesn't look like a big wiggle sitting here, but boy,
in the cockpit,
that thing was moving all over the racetrack, and he did a terrific job keeping that thing from spinning on him.
Yeah, because he had a full field right behind him. Well, we understand now from race control that the 9 car of Scott Dixon could be spraying.
Yeah, that would not.
Keep an eye on number 9. They're going to black flag. They're going to black flag Scott Dixon this time by. Now watch the black flag on the upper right here as you go by the flag stand. There's the black flag right there for Scott Dixon.
And of course they'll be telling him on the radio too that he's got to come in. Oh, there you can see it. You can see it coming off of the wing. There's something coming out of the engine compartment coming off of the wing, and it's smoking. He's going to have to go. Oh, it's smoking big time.
He has a problem with that power plant.
Everybody's got to be very careful. This racetrack does not have a very good pit lane, so you can't get way off of the racetrack down there in turns 3 and 4. They all made it by him, but it's very difficult when a car at speed tries to go around somebody slowing down heading for the pit lane.
Giafone opens his lead up now to over 2 seconds.
Yeah, well, Scott Dixon up there kind of helped hold everybody up, even though he wasn't running in 2nd spot. He got up on the high side, and everybody else kind of had to get out of the throttle a little bit while Yasukawa was in front of all of them.
You have to be surprised that Yasukawa is still 2nd. He has Castroneves behind him, then Kanaan, and then Franchitti, but he's hanging on the 2nd.
Yeah, but I think Dixon was in there. Seeing Dixon spraying fluid on everybody behind Yasukawa, so they couldn't get around either one of them. We'll see now how long it takes Castroneves to get back up there. Although, you're right. Right now, he's pulled out to a 4 or 5 car length lead.
I understand that young A.J. Foyt IV is in the pit area.
And he may have had some damage to his car when they made contact. If he'd been an A-arm just a little bit on the right front corner of that car, it's not going to feel very good to him, and he's probably going to go in and have it looked at.
Well, I tell you what, you have to be impressed with this young rookie. I mean, he's holding his own out there. He didn't make the pit stop, and that's why he got the track position, but he only got passed by 1 guy. Now, granted, there may have been some spray on the racetrack, but still, he's holding his own out there.
He certainly is. He's doing a very nice job as he's running in front of Castroneves, and actually seems to be gaining just a tick on him every time around. So, Roger Yasukawa doing a great job.
We have another yellow. And we understand that we have a car smoking on the backstretch. It may be car number 18.
Scott Mayer, we're being told, is there he is. He's parked down in the middle of turns 3 and 4. He did get off of the racetrack, but obviously he's going to have to.
Well, they don't want to leave that car parked down there, though, so they'll throw the yellow
they have
flag
to get him up. Now then they're taking a look at Dixon to see if they can.
Well, and it looks like Scott Dixon's out of that car, and there's nobody in the cockpit, and that tells you his day is done. So the youngster from Auckland, New Zealand, who had a great ride at Homestead just 3 weeks ago, has lost his gearbox, and he's going to be a spectator here this afternoon.
Well, the Kiwis are not going to be happy about that. They were a very proud bunch last week, or last race. Now then they'll have to wait for Japan for him to come back.
3 weeks ago it was chicken, and this week it's feathers for young Scott, as he is out with gearbox problems here at Phoenix. Under our third yellow of the afternoon, this for Scott Mayer, who parked his car in the grass down inside the backstretch, but they'll have to remove that. They don't want that car sitting there throughout the race. So our third yellow of the afternoon. Scott Dixon was our first leader.
Yes.
He led the first 34 laps, then Giafoni led until the last yellow, and then Yasukawa led for a couple laps under yellow.
Yes, he did. That yellow car you're seeing there on the inside of the racetrack is one of the Silver Crown cars that ran earlier in the day. It doesn't look like one of the cars that we're racing out there right now. That's why. It's not. It's a different kind. They run 4 different classes down here during this Copper World weekend, and that being one of the 2 front engine classes that they run.
And that car, or that race, was won by Dave Steele, who has seen victory lane a number of times here and actually drove in the Indy Racing League a few races.
Yeah.
So the last time we saw this car being pushed by the crew, it was being pushed from victory lane back to the hauler at Homestead.
Yeah, they were a lot happier then than they are right now. It's one of those things that doesn't happen a lot to somebody like Chip Ganassi.
Here's the 24 car, Robbie Buell. There's the Dreyer Reinhold entry.
Well, it's like several.
Kenny Breck car, so a number of these drivers are making their second pit stop of the afternoon.
Well, under the yellow, if you want to come in and top off so that you can run another 10, 15 laps after everybody else, that's what these guys are doing. They're kind of playing the numbers game, that if they can kind of catch a break with a yellow and stay on the racetrack an extra time, then they'll have a good chance at winning this race.
Kanan looking back at Franchitti, his teammate with the Andretti Green Racing operation, which is based in Indianapolis, Indiana.
All 3 of them running 4th, 5th, and 6th. Kanan, Franchitti, and Andretti.
We have documented this will be the last trip to Phoenix for Michael Andretti, who won this race in the spring back in 1986. On this restart, Giafoni will have the point. Yasukawa will be second. Castroneves, Kanan, Franchitti, and Andretti rounding out the top 6. And again, I have to underscore as we remain under yellow that I'm impressed with Roger. He's out there. He's consistent.
Yeah, he's done a very good job. I thought he might have been holding everybody up on that restart, but after Giafoni got around him and after he once got up to speed, Castroneves was 8 or 10th car lengths back and never did gain all that much on him. So we'll see on this restart if he learned anything from the veterans the last time around, or if Castroneves can get a big jump on him and get back around him.
Well, he's gone well, Roger has, on the ovals. In fact, he won at Milwaukee last season. It was his second career Toyota Atlantic start, and he won. He's been a former Formula Dodge Western Series champion and was the 1999 Barber Dodge Pro Series Rookie of the Year. So we're going to hear from Sam Hornish now, the 2-time defending champion.
The first 2 events, not the greatest for you, Sam. How are you feeling? Are you okay after the contact here?
Better than I could be feeling, but you know, the car was really good. The Pensacola Panther team, we worked real hard to get in a car that was good and set up for the race, and the car was fine at the beginning. Wasn't only running the car at about 90%, and just were able to continue to keep passing people. People kept coming back to us, so that's a great place to be.
You actually got hit, I understand. I didn't get a chance to see it. Well, we got to get back upstairs. Thank you, Sam. We're glad you're all right.
Thank you.
Once again, Gary Gerald visiting with Sam Hornish and establishing again that he was helped to the wall by AJ the 4th.
Yeah, he
still have 1 lap to go before we turn them loose. We're working on lap 54 right now under yellow, but you see the pace cars off the track, and Giafoni will bring them around.
Yasukawa getting very close. He doesn't want to get snookered again.
In the gearbox?
Yeah, it seems so. It's hard to know. Got off to a good start with Team Target, but just after that pit stop, it started making a noise in the rear, and then after the the restart, we sort of knew it wasn't right.
We're going back to green. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks a lot.
So the winner 3 weeks ago out of the race, and now Brian Barnhart is calling off the start this next time by. Not sure exactly why, but there's the restart order. DeFerrin now is back to 8th position after the early problem. So he really he made what normally is a tough day here tougher for him by spinning on lap 2.
Yeah, he certainly did. And right there is a real good use of the radios and the yellow lights that they have in those cars. You know, when something happens and you're not going to go green and you're not yet to that front straightaway, you can tell everybody plenty in advance so you don't have guys running over each other and somebody not in the back not paying good attention. It'll be interesting to see here if Castroneves can make a big move. He's extremely good on restarts. Of course, he's got this rookie in front of him, Yasukawa, so we'll see if he can do anything. That's Kenny Brack right there.
Some of these drivers only took fuel on the last pit stop.
Oh, look at this. Once again, he kind of gets jumped. Let's see if Castroneves got a good enough run. Nope, Castroneves didn't get a run on him.
Well, Giaffoni got a good restart, but the guys behind really didn't. There goes Franchitti to the heights. Oh, he got contact between 2 cars right there. You saw the puff of smoke.
That was Andretti. That's Andretti down on the inside of the racetrack, I believe, who got way out of the throttle after he made contact.
That was contact with Schechter. And you saw the puff of white smoke, and Andretti immediately went to the inside and backed out of the throttle to check to make sure the car was all right. Now he's back up to speed.
That's Jacques Lazire. He just tried to go around on the inside. We're riding along with Robbie Buell now. But Andretti got way out of the throttle, dropped way down on the racetrack, thinking he might have a problem with the car. Once he realized there was no problem, he picked back up. He had already lost probably 6-7 positions by that time.
And we thought this was a non-contact sport.
Well, not at a place like this. You're going to have some contact, and it's not a good thing. I mean, it's not like fendered cars. You can't make contact and have a good result. But right there, when Andretti made contact with Schechter, that's about the best you can hope for.
Well, he dropped a number of positions. Now watch this right here.
They can go. Schechter on the outside. And as they come off the corner, Andretti just moved up, and they just made a little contact. He didn't move up very much, but Schechter was so close that when he just came up the racetrack a little bit, there was a little bit of contact.
Lost about 5 or 6 positions on that altercation. As you look back off the rear of Jacques Lazire's car, Jacques right now is in 12th position behind his brother Buddy. Jacques, of course, lost about half the season last year with injuries suffered at Nazareth in a crash.
Yeah, and you can see that Andretti is not gaining all that much right now. He's just kind of running back there. He caught up with Schechter at one point right after Schechter got around him, and now then he's just kind of running in place.
Michael called the crew and said the steering feels fine, but his heart rate increased, his blood pressure went up, and the crew had to settle him down just a bit.
Well, I can imagine that that's exactly what happened. Because, you know, contact at a place like this is it's a big-time contact. It's not a good thing.
There's a battle for 9th position. Al Unser Jr. up to 9th after starting back near the back of the pack in 20th position. And that is young Buddy Rice, who lives out here in the Phoenix area. A lot of his friends and relatives are watching him this afternoon, driving for Team Cheever. Eddie Cheever, of course, plans to drive in the Indianapolis 500. Said he may drive in Japan next month, but then that may be it for his racing.
Yeah, he's probably going to quit and just be a team owner too, like Michael. But right now, Buddy Rice has got his sights. Now we're right along with Scott Sharp, who's right behind this pair. That's Buddy Rice right in front of him. Al Unser Jr., the second car up. And Buddy Rice seems to be getting a good run through 1 and 2 and through the corners. But he's not running very well. That's a Chevrolet engine, and he's just not getting down the straightaways like he should.
Thomas Schechter actually lost a piece of the front wing in that contact with Michael Andretti, and that can really change the handling of the race car here.
It certainly can. It doesn't appear to be showing up yet. This is
position.
Yeah, this is a very high downforce racetrack. They use a lot of wing. You've got to have the rear wing. There's a 3-tier wing on the back of these cars. The top tier has to be set at 49 degrees. So it's a very, very high downforce racetrack. So if you lose some of that downforce like Schechter has, it could be a big, big problem for you.
Well, you figure the pole speed over 178 miles an hour on a 1-mile racetrack, you've got to have some good downforce in the corners.
And it is affecting him. He's lost a spot. He's back to 6th spot now, and he's slowing up very quickly.
A.J. Foyt back in the pit area to the attention of his crew, and he's back in 18th position. There's a look at Schechter. Well, we're hearing now, we've intercepted a radio contact from the car 10 to the pit. Thomas Schechter says his car feels fine. So it's a piece of fiberglass that came off the wing. Now you're on board with Scott Sharp. Scott Sharp now riding back in the 10th position. Scott was the co-champion of the very first season of the Indy Racing League when he shared that title with Buzz Calkins. He's dipped below that yellow line there that has in the past presented a problem because it was a little slick.
He qualified 11th quick, so he's running just about where he started. And you can see that turn 3 and 4 that he just went through, a very flat corner. The front straightaway extremely flat. Now, as they go through 1 and 2, you can see there's a lot more banking down here, a couple of degrees more. But coming off of 2, the car wants to push. That's the reason everybody's way out next to that wall. The front end of the car wants to take off, and it pulls you right up to that fence. So you gotta drive the car with the throttle, especially down there coming off of 2.
He's behind that Red Bull entry. Rice is back in 9th. Sharp is 10th.
Roger Yasukawa is
still second.
Felipe Giafone, and he's caught him a little bit over the last few laps.
But I tell you what, he's at the end of his pit window, or he's getting pretty close to the end of it.
Well, that's one of the reasons. He's very light on. That's one of the reasons that he's able to do that. The car is probably a lot lighter than everybody else because they've all got a half a tank of fuel left.
Well, these cars start the race with 35 gallons of methanol, alcohol.
7 pounds.
7 pounds of pound.
200 pounds of fuel, so 250 pounds of fuel. So he right now is down to almost no fuel. Everybody else has still got 150 pounds of fuel.
He could be 180 or 90 pounds lighter than the rest of the field. But still, you got to give this kid credit. He doesn't have a lot of experience in high horsepower race cars. He's gone well on the small ovals before, but in underpowered race cars compared to this.
Well, it was a great gamble on his crew's part. At least he's got a lot of confidence in himself now that he can run with the big guys on this racetrack.
Well, A.J. Foyt IV has become a spectator. His day is over. So he is out of the race, and he joins 4 other drivers, including Meyer and Dixon and Hornish, Takagi on the sideline.
Buddy Rice still chasing Scott Sharp. Actually, Sharp just got around Buddy Rice. Sorry about that.
Sharp moved up to 9th position. Rice drops to 10th. The Lazier brothers are running 11th and 12th on the racetrack. We haven't seen some brothers battle here since we saw the Unser clan. In fact, the Unser clan, Bobby and Big Al won 10 different races here during their careers. Big Al won 6, Bobby won 4.
Yeah. Buddy Rice right now losing a little ground. Scott Sharp is actually picking up. He was running back in the 11th spot. He's picked up a couple of spots here recently, and now that he's got his eyes on Allinger Jr. in front of him.
Once again, we're at lap 76 right now of a 200-lap event. You see Scott begin to pull away from Buddy. Scott was a past winner here at Phoenix.
There you can see that 3-tier rear wing, 3-piece rear wing.
Well, Felipe Giafone continues to lead here on lap 77.
Welcome back. Still Felipe Giafone leads. Roger Yasukawa, the man that was in 2nd place, has just pitted. He was running on fumes just about. So Helio Castroneves has been promoted up into 2nd place. The race is on. Tony Kanaan is in 3rd place. Let's go back to the track and our commentators.
If they both, oh, look at this.
Yellow for debris right after he made the stop. Can you believe that?
Well, that's a tough break because it really, if it would have been awfully nice for that yellow to come out a couple laps earlier.
Well, like you say, I'd rather be lucky than good. He wasn't real lucky that time. So the yellow comes out just about a lap or two too late for young Roger. But at the same time, if these guys don't come in, well, they're still going to have to make a pit stop or two, perhaps under green, if they don't come in on this yellow.
Well, the way the IRL rules work, he's going to get his lap back. He only lost 1 lap. Everybody else is going to come in. He will be at the lead pack behind the pace car after the pit stops. He will then, before the green flag, get to go clear around and fall in at the back of the pack. So under the IRL rules,
that's if these guys make a pit stop.
Well, but I'm pretty, well, they may not. You're right. But at 50, they've been 55 laps now.
They're still,
Now, if they pit now, they could make it in 1 more pit stop, I believe.
They could. If we go green the rest of the way, they could make it 1 pit stop. Right. But doggone it, had that yellow just come out a couple laps earlier, it had not come out at all.
Well, it's a bad break for him, but a good break for these other guys. So we'll see. But I believe everybody will probably make a pit stop here, try to take advantage of this yellow flag, and when they come back out, you know, if it goes green the rest of the way, they'll only have to make 1 more pit stop.
We've only had 3 leaders so far. Scott Dixon led the first 34 laps, then Giafoni took over under a pit stop, beat him coming out, and then everybody made a pit stop. Yasukawa, and he led for a couple laps under yellow. Then on the restart, Giafoni got back around him, and Yasukawa ran in 2nd position for a number of laps until he made his pit stop. And then the yellow came out, and that's where we are now, under yellow. Looking back off the pace car, off the Chevrolet Corvette pace car, back at Felipe Giafoni, former rookie of the year. Finally won a race last season.
Yeah, this is such a beautiful racetrack, a beautiful place to come in the springtime. These guys always look forward to it because most of the guys who run here believe that if they can get their cars set up to run Phoenix, that same sort of setup will work very well at Indianapolis.
Now we remain under yellow behind that yellow Corvette pace car with Giafoni out in front of Castro Neves and Kanaan. And under yellow, they all come into the pits. We talked about Giafoni winning last season. He won at Kentucky just under a 2nd advantage over Sam Hornish. And there you look at the Mojan team going to work on.
Yeah, quickly they get that done.
Quickly they get the Giafoni Hollywood car out of.
They didn't need a full tank of fuel, so they got through fueling just about the same time they got through changing the tires. And once again,
the Penske crew didn't get him out so quickly. Of course, he had to go a long way down the pit area because they were right at the pit exit.
Right, but they both entered. They exited very close to each other. But
well, Tony Kanaan has stalled his car, Larry, in the pit area.
Oh, that's a bad.
That will lose him a lot of track position.
And Keedy comes out in 3rd, Schechter in 4th, to Farron all the way up to 5th after that disastrous start. So Farron's, between his driving and the pit crew's fast work, he's gained a lot of spots out there on the racetrack.
Mike Fischer from Columbus, Ohio, right rear tire changer on the Ray Hall team. The car of Kenny Breck clipped him coming in for that first pit stop. Fischer has now been transported by ground to a hospital in Phoenix for x-rays and further observation of a leg injury. While we have a moment, we're under yellow. Ari Luyendyk is standing alongside here in the Mo Nunn pit. Ari, I understand you've made arrangements. You're going to run for Mo. Your 18th Indianapolis 500 appearance. You must be excited.
Really excited to be back with Mo. Worked with him in the past, and obviously the team is running great today, and we just had a phenomenal pit stop, so hopefully the team can keep up the good work for May.
How tough will it be to go in and just run 1 racing event in a 500 miler?
We get a lot of practice laps at Indy, so we'll be okay. Maybe the pit stops we need to work on a little bit extra because obviously I don't do those too often, but driving the car, I'll get to do enough of that during the month of May.
And of course, he's won this event 2 times at Indianapolis. Wish you well, Ari.
Thank you.
Well, Gary Gerald, he has indeed. He went back in '91 and again in '96. But I tell you what, he retired. Decided he didn't like it, wanted to come back to racing. I don't think his wife wanted him to, and so now he's just a one-time-a-year driver. If he can find a ride, he comes back and runs Indy. There is the 24 car of Robbie Buell.
Yeah, he's not going to get a much better ride than he's got this year with that Monon Racing team. It's an excellent team, and it'll give him his best shot to come back in Indy and be successful.
Robbie Buell, teammate to Sarah Fischer, and the contract really has not been signed for Sarah. They're still trying to put the financial structure together for Sarah to come back to Indy.
Well, Michael Andretti did not make a pit stop. Michael Andretti stayed on the racetrack. He's run 59 laps. He's going to have to stop. Well, we saw one car go 85 laps, so maybe he can go that far, but still, he's betting on a yellow flag here in the next 25 laps, and we'll see if that works or not.
We're indicating to the teams one more lap before we go green as the pace car pulls off and turns it over to Michael. Michael has won here. He finished second, won in 86, finished second in 92. Had a great race here in 86 with Kevin Kogan.
There's Roger Yasukawa. He did go around. He's on the back of the lead lap, so he did not lose a lap because he stayed on the racetrack, so he's back on the lead lap. So it'd be clear at the end of the path.
I would keep in mind, I mean, well, the car's going to be a few pounds lighter because he burned off a few gallons of fuel, but not all that much.
Look at Giaffoni. He's very aggressive again, trying to get under Andretti. Now, Andretti's not going to let him have that. He said, I'm going to lead this thing. I'm going out in style. At least I'm going to lead some racing laps here.
And we have asked Michael, I think everybody who covers motorsports in this league has asked Michael, if you're leading the point standings after Indy, will you retire? And he said, yeah, what a great way to go out. So I guess he's determined he's going to be a car owner, devote all his time to ownership, and climb out of the cockpit for good.
Well, it would be great to go out a winner or go out leading, but boy, it'd be a tough thing to do, I would think, as much as he enjoys this sport.
We talked about early in the broadcast, he has led more laps than any other non-winner at Indy, and if he had a really good race at Indy and led a bunch of laps, he could move up in the top 5 all time in laps led. So Giaffoni rides in second, Castroneves third, Franchitti is fourth, and Schechter, LeFerrin back to 6th.
And you can see that Andretti, after Giaffoni gave him that real challenge on the initial start, he's fallen back about 5 car lengths, and so far just kind of running there.
The same thing with Roger earlier, Yasukawa. This car's much, much lighter than the other cars. It just took on probably 30, 32 gallons of fuel.
Well, that's true. That's very true. But remember, he was running up in the front. He was running in the top 5 or 6 until he made that contact with Schechter a little earlier in the race. That's when he fell back to 13th or 14th, and I think he and his crew decided the only way he was going to get back in this thing was to stay on the racetrack and take their chances, and that's exactly what they've done.
So they're out of sequence now with the other lead cars in this race. He has to make one more pit stop.
There've been a few times that
the yellow is out, Larry. You have a spin over in turn 2, and that is that's Kenny Breck.
Wow. That we've talked about turn 2 and how it's the front end will get to pushing on in. Sometimes when it pushes over there, you just kind of try to pull it back down. When you do, no, that's Yasukawa.
Is that Yasukawa? Oh my!
It's in the other.
That is Yasukawa. It's the same color paint scheme. It is Yasukawa. So what had been a great race for him turns to dust in a hurry.
Yeah, that's a tough break for him.
Well, we'll take a look in slow motion exactly what happened. We just caught the maybe there's some contact there with somebody else.
Wow, the back end, he didn't go straight in backwards. That's a good thing, because that's the worst way you can hit in one of these cars is straight backwards. But he certainly hit the wall a ton with that left rear corner and tore that race car up.
Well, the 5th yellow of the afternoon, and they're still working with him as he starts to climb out now. So probably knocked the wind out of him.
Well, that's a good thing. He is getting out of the car. That's the important thing, on his own power.
Let's take a look again, Larry, and see if on this replay we can determine if there was some contact with another car.
He's talking with the safety people now, saying, yeah, I'm okay. And all the drivers say, no, I'm not going to go to the hospital. And the guys are saying, oh, yes, you are. That's mandatory. You got to get in there and go to the hospital.
And usually after a wreck like this, when you
he's not feeling quite so good. Yeah.
A little lightheaded. They normally say, what's your name? What racetrack is this? Yeah. What's your wife's name?
Yeah, so he decided he'd sit back down because he was not, you can see he was wobbling a little bit.
He was woozy.
Yeah, he was a little woozy. He took a hard hit. Those things, remember, these things are running extremely fast. They're running 180, 190 miles an hour. He's probably still running 170 when he hit the wall.
Well, let's work to get the helmet off. You saw Dr. Bach's emergency vehicle pull up there. He is the medical director for the Indy Racing League, but he pulls up to do triage to make sure there's no serious injury to the driver. So you take a look there. After 101 laps, Michael Andretti continues to lead.
It's all action in Phoenix for the Purex style Indy 200. We're live from the Phoenix International Raceway, and what action it's been. We're on our 5th yellow flag of the afternoon, our 5th caution period, and this one, the unlucky Roger Yasukawa, who hit the wall very hard, but he's perfectly okay on lap 100. This is a 200-lap race. Michael Andretti slightly out of sequence at the moment. He took the option to go to the head of the field and not pit a little bit earlier on when we're under our 4th yellow for debris. Paul Cherry and Lawrence Foster still with me here in the studio. I tell you what, guys, this is quite a complicated one to see how it's all going to pan out in the end. Paul, first of all, you did actually say that this was going to be a bit of a war of attrition when we came on air, and it has proved to be that way.
Yeah, the pace has been fast and furious, that's for sure. And people, the trouble is here, it's such a narrow track, you can't run two abreast anywhere other than the front straight. And what we've got now is people are trying to make the most out of the spaces that are available and unfortunately touching. And as we've seen, it's second you clip somebody, you're out of it.
Lawrence, we had on lap 2 Gilles de Ferran spinning without any damage, almost taking out Franchitti and his teammate Helio Castroneves. We had Sam Hornish, the 2-times champion and defending champ at the moment, who finds himself out. That's the order you can see on your screen at the moment as we can see after 100 of the 200 laps. That is the order. Michael Andretti is out of sequence, I hasten to add. So, as I was saying, on lap 32, Sam Hornish Jr., the defending champion, found himself up against the wall. He was helped a little bit, we think, by Ajo Foyt the 4th, although I have to say it looked to me like Hornish was coming down on Foyt.
I think Hornish, he's great on the high banks when he can run that high groove. I think he kind of lost himself slightly there, relative position. But I must say, there was a great argument here as to the role that Foyt played in it. But interestingly enough as well, I think we were hoping that Andretti would have pitted by now, but he must be deciding that there will be more yellows coming up pretty soon, and based on what we've had up till now, odds on there will be.
Well, Foyt eventually, he went out of the race. He's now in pit lane as well. Scott Mayer caused our 3rd yellow of the afternoon. He stopped in a dangerous position. 4th yellow of the afternoon was for debris on the track, and we could actually physically see it, so that bunched them all back up. And as I tell you now, Roger Yasukawa caused our 5th yellow of the afternoon on lap 100 of the 200. Michael Andretti is the man that leads. We're looking at him. Felipe Giaffoni there in 2nd place, hunting him down, and they are out of sequence. Giaffoni has a full tank, whereas Michael Andretti is just about 10 laps adrift of a full tank. Helio Castroneves, my tip, I have to say, at the beginning of the programme, is there in 3rd place. Dario Franchitti said at the beginning of the programme, OK, he qualified in 9th place, but he was very happy with his race car, so his race setup was right, and he's in 4th place at the moment, just in front of Thomas Scheckter. And then Gilles de Ferran, unbelievably having that spin just 2 laps into this race, finds himself in 6th place, and he will be a challenger. We are under our 5th yellow of the day. OK, well, let's rearrange the pecking order very quickly, Paul. Do you want to change your prediction for this race now?
Well, certainly Michael's leading the race at the moment, but by my calculations, he's got about 12 laps left. And I don't honestly think there'll be another yellow in 12 laps, he says, touching the wood. So I think Elio would be my next good bet. But having said that, the G-forces yet again are running very, very strong. And I think Giaffoni could well be in there. OK,
so we can take that as you're going to sit on the fence for the rest of this race then, and not actually... You've got quite a few drivers to choose from there, and I think you cover just about every single one of them. Well, the race will come back under green as soon as we see the car disappear down pit lane. That's the pace car. Let's rejoin our commentators at trackside live.
Now the drivers, as you can see, a safety vehicle still on the track. A couple of vehicles. They have the oil dry down there, trying to sop up the moisture that was lost from Yasukawa's car when he hit the wall coming through turn 2. And it looks like we'll have another 2 or 3 laps anyway under yellow, unless they do a very rapid sweeping job out there.
Yeah,
Michael Andretti continues to lead this thing.
Yeah, he's you know, he's run 75 laps now. since the last pit stop. I really thought he would come in, especially near the end of this. He still may.
Giafone rides in second position, and there's Castroneves back in third on the restart.
Castroneves is a guy who always hangs around the front. He doesn't. He always gives himself a chance to win. That's all he can do.
The other Andretti entry. And Schechter's back there, and Scott Sharp in the number 8 car. He's back in 8th position. And Tony Kanaan has pulled back into the pits. He had been in 9th position. Kanaan comes back in late in this yellow, so maybe we're seeing that strategy play out here. But can he go 90 laps? With one more yellow, perhaps.
Well,
that's a question mark. Flip that coin. That's a question mark.
He's probably playing the game. At least he's going to give himself a chance to do that. After being back that far, you know, he might just come in to give himself a better chance to make it to the next yellow. If it goes 70 laps or so, some of these guys are going to have to pit before they get to that 70th lap.
Well, there's a look at Schechter in car number 10. Schechter right now in 5th position. Gilles Defer in his 6th. Scott Sharp is now in 7th. 8th is Buddy Rice. Jacques Lazier is in 9th. Kenny Brack is in 10th. And Buddy Lazier back in 11th. Scott Sharp now, we just mentioned where he was, but obviously he'll back to back as he makes his pit stop. So we are seeing that strategy employed right now. Late in the yellow, they're going to make a stop.
Yeah, some of these guys, you know, everybody else has 20 laps since the last pit stop. They definitely are going to have to make a pit stop. If they have to make it under green, these guys Kanaan and Sharp have given themselves one heck of a chance to get an advantage on everybody else. So, you know, Sharp knows that he's been running back in 10th spot all night long, or all day long.
He has nothing to lose by making the stop now and trying to squeeze it out.
That's his best gamble to win this race, is to get off sequence with everybody else and hopefully catch a yellow at the right time, or maybe even make it to the end.
Well, timing and scoring, race control is now saying, Larry, 2 laps to green. So will we see Michael come in?
Well, I don't think so at this point. He may. If he does, if he comes in with only 1 lap to go,
he's got 70 laps since his last stop.
That's amazing that he's not in the pit area. I just,
well, we'll not try to
don't want to second guess them. That's right.
Crew.
Can't second guess them, but boy, that's
Buddy Rice back in 7th position.
He can't run more than 10 laps or 11 laps at most, I would think.
Well, we will see the strategy unfold because we're at lap just really past the halfway point. We've been slowed by 5 yellows. Andretti is the 4th different leader. And there's Jacques Lazier. He's currently back in 8th position.
I thought he might even duck in at that lap, but he didn't do it. He's still out there. So that's
we're looking for the furrow flag to indicate 1 more lap as he takes the tear off from the helmet visor. Kenny Brack back in 9th position. Well, Larry.
Kenny Brack was the fastest guy out here most of the weekend. He was fast all during practice on Friday, all during practice on Saturday. Then he didn't qualify all that good, and he hasn't run all that good today. He did the same thing at Miami. He practiced very, very well. He was one of the fastest all week long, and then when it came to race time, they missed the setup a little bit. I think they'll be scratching their heads a little bit on that one.
Here we go, back to green, back to racing, and immediately Giafone looks to the inside. Does he have room to make the pass? No.
And look at this.
Look at Franchitti on the high side of Castroneves. They are side by side. They kicked up some dust there. I thought there was contact, but no, but they're still side by side. Dario Franchitti, look at this move to the inside. And a new leader.
Giafone went by Andretti, and Castroneves held off Franchitti. So now then he's going to make a move on Andretti. And look at this, the fair and 3 wide.
Can't go 3 wide here at Phoenix.
Man, oh man.
And look at Franchitti just lost 2 positions with that move. Well, actually 3.
Yeah, I think Franchitti was the big time loser there. But Gilles Defer to the inside of 2 different cars, and they all 3 made it. That's a great job by all 3 of them. Believe me, that's
third time this afternoon, Larry, that Gilles Defer at Giafone has led this race. And he just motored on by.
Yeah, he's been extremely strong all day long. You can't take anything away from that crew. They've been very fast all day long.
And look at the Farron back to 4th position, basically where he started this race, where he spun on lap 2 into the back of the pack, and he's been clawing his way back, as you said, with good pit stops and good work on the racetrack. He's back in 4th position. Look at this.
Yeah, it looks like there was some
Scott Sharp.
Yeah, some contact there with somebody. The nose of that car's he's got something on. Oh, he's got yellow flag, it appears.
Well, it's debris. Something has come off that car.
That's a wing. That's part of a wing. You can see the left.
Oh yeah, it's the right front. It's the right
front wing is bent back. He's made some contact with somebody.
Well, now this can play into Mr. Andretti's hand, because he can duck in and make that pit stop. He's gone 84 laps.
Yep.
And we have 82 laps to go, so he could duck in, make the pit stop, and be ready to go.
And he could make it to the end after that.
The other guys can't. These other guys cannot make it to the end.
Yeah, everybody else, well, probably not.
Kanaan has been 8 laps since his last stop.
Yeah.
Jacques Lazier has been 7. Sharp has been 7. Buell has been 2. Everybody else is going to have to stop at least one more time.
Yeah.
Andretti can find victory lane.
Strategy's interesting.
Well, there's the old saying, I've heard Johnny Rutherford say it so many times, I'd rather be lucky than good.
Yep.
And we question why Team Andretti Green did not bring Michael in at the very end of that last stop. He has the green. He's going to have to, or the yellow. He has to stop now.
Well,
I mean,
that's what I thought the last time. But
85 laps. He's gone 85 laps, and I'm not sure how long that piece of wing's going to hang there before they black flag Scott Sharp and bring him in.
Well, I'm sure they're telling him he's going to have to come in and fix that.
There was contact between Robbie Buell and Scott Sharp, and that is why we're under yellow. Some debris on the racetrack. You see the safety vehicle there on the left, and you see the damage to the right front wing, and a piece of it there still lodged. Well, we're hearing that Giafone is going to pit for fuel only, and he's only gone 28 laps since his last pit stop. And look at this, they're all coming in.
They're all coming in. They're all going to make that last pit stop now and bet that they can make it to the end, which I think most of them probably can.
They can now. So, is this a race that's won or lost in the pit area?
Well, could be right now. Giafone, fuel only.
Fuel only for Giafone. Well, let's see what they're doing with Andretti. They're putting tires on Andretti.
Oh! Wow, he beat him out, but that was pretty close, as it looked like he was going to hit. Both Penske cars got out of the area about the same time. Now Schechter, he pulls up alongside of DeFerrin, thinking that he might have beat him out of the pit area. They'll
have to call him the radio and let him know what position he goes in.
Officials will sort that out, obviously, but
let's see who will be the leader on this this restart once they cycle through all these pit stops.
Kanaan's going to be the leader. I can tell you who's going to be the leader when they come around, because he did not go in the pit area.
Well, Kanaan would then jump from 11th, or some 6th, that is, from 6th to 1st, by virtue of not making the pit stop.
Question is, can he make it to the end?
So Kanaan, well, he's gone 11 laps since his last pit stop. So you take a look at car number 11 as we are here at Phoenix International Raceway. Live coverage of the IndyCar Series. Tony Kanaan did not make the pit stop, did not have to, because he's only been 11 laps since his last stop. Now we have 79 laps to go. That would put him at 90. I don't know if he can make it 90 laps.
Depends on how many yellow flag laps they have. Sarah Fischer, by virtue of not making a pit stop, is now in 2nd place, so she's hung on all day long.
Now here's a replay of the pit stop. Now it's fuel only for Giafone. Did not change the tires. Now he quickly gets out, and he'll be 3rd on the restart because Kanaan and Fischer did not stop.
Yeah, and as he
pulled out, they repaired the wing on Scott Sharp's car. That little altercation has hit him a lap back. Now at the back of the lead lap now in 14th position.
Yeah, I think they just ripped that one piece off, didn't they?
Now let's see.
No, that looks like they put a new one on. You're right.
Let's see how much the tires the difference the tires make, because Andretti took on tires. Giafone did not take on tires. And I believe the Penske cars took on tires.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they did, because Giafone only took fuel, and they came out at almost identical time with him. So I don't think they took on tires either.
No, they're not going to get the restart. The yellow remains out. Ryan Howard with the yellow flag. They'll hold the furl flag up. There is the furl flag. One more lap to go. So the green will come out as we complete lap 123. We've had 6 yellows this afternoon. Kanaan leads for the first time. We've had 5 different leaders. Giafone has led 3 times. Dixon led early. Yasukawa led early under a yellow condition. Andretti led for some 22 circuits. There's Sarah Fischer, who's currently in 2nd position. She has a 2nd place finish in her IRL career. She's finished 3rd. She was fast qualifier on one occasion last year. She did not make a pit stop, nor did Tony Kanaan. Tony Kanaan has gone some 13 laps since his last stop, but I don't think he can go the distance without stopping. Here's the restart. Watch him scramble for position.
Look at that. She just did not get up to speed very quickly. Those Chevrolet engines just, they really are struggling right at this point in the season.
Giafone blew by her, and yet she's still back there in 3rd position. Well, now she loses that position to one of the Penske cars, and that's Castro-Neves who gets by her.
Now she's still running in 2nd position. She's still up there.
Still in 2nd.
Yeah, I think that was Robbie Buell who had been lapped that was up there.
Oh, that was Buell, okay.
He was up there and kind of in the mix too. And both those cars look identical.
Yeah, Buell's 2 laps behind. That's one of the problems that we have. That the Penske cars are just alike. Buell and Sarah Fischer are just alike.
Right. But yeah, no, she's actually hanging right in there. Look at this. She once she got that slow start, it looks like she got that race car working very well. She's hanging right there with Tony Kanaan.
Well, right now, both of these drivers will have to make a pit stop, because Sarah has gone now 36 laps since her last stop.
She will. I'm not sure Kanaan will. I think Kanaan, he has an outside chance to make it. Sarah Fischer definitely will have to pit again, because number one, the Chevrolets are getting lousy fuel mileage. They're only getting about 1.9 to 2 miles per gallon, while the Toyotas and Hondas are getting 2.2 to 2.3.
I'll tell you, Kanaan, if he goes the distance, will have gone 90 laps. Well, stop the fuel. That's the outside.
I said that was an outside chance.
Real outside.
That's real outside. You're right. But
that's a real wide window.
And they're going to have some yellows. He can't do it if it's all green flag. No question about that.
Right now, Castro-Neves is up to 3rd. Giafone is 4th. Schechter is 5th. DeFerrin 6th. Then Al Unser Jr. Tip your hat for Al, because Al has been steady all day. Did not qualify well yesterday. Started back in the 20th position, but has soldiered through the pack with some good pit stops. Some good work on the racetrack, and he's up to 7th position. Franchitti is now 8th. Andretti has dropped to 9th. Rice is 10th, and Brack is now in 11th position.
I got to tell you, I'm very impressed with Sarah Fischer with the Chevrolet engine that everybody's been boo-hooing all year long. Look how far she's pulled out in front of Castro-Neves. She's hanging right with Tony Kanaan. So doing a terrific job in that race car. She's been the most popular IRL driver the last 2 years in a row. And look at this right now.
She's going to challenge for the lead.
She's going to challenge for the lead.
Fans are on their feet screaming for Sarah. Now Sarah does not have a contract to drive at Indianapolis, and this could go a long way in securing her some sponsorship.
And that's probably why they left her out here, to give her a little time
to little camera time.
Well, and little did they expect, or little did we expect, that she would at least hang in there as well as she has. She has really. Well, look at Kanaan. He got a little loose off of that corner too.
Well, I watched Sarah when she was driving midgets, and she was so competitive at some huge racetracks like Winchester. Winchester in East Central Indiana is a half-mile high bank paved oval, and you know, when you can win at Winchester, you've got your act together.
Yes, you do. And I think the best thing I've seen from her, she got running the open wheel cars, the midgets, one time at Anderson Speedway. Somebody came along and bumped her out of the way, and she moved up the racetrack, and I thought, well, they've taken her out of this race. And she came right back and bapped him in the next corner and went back by him. I'm thinking, hey, she's got some nerve here. She's not taking that from anybody.
You know, in short track racing, where she comes from, the short ovals, You can't let the competition intimidate you. If they bump you, you got to come back and bump them.
And the other thing is this racetrack is so physically demanding. I mean, this is one of the most physically demanding racetracks on the circuit because you're always turning. At Indianapolis, you've got long straightaways to rest a little bit. Here, you're always in a constant corner, and she's done a great job that way, too. She's as good a shape as anybody here.
Well, she has been living in Indianapolis. She was going to enroll in Butler University. Initially, she wanted to be an engineer and go to college for engineering, but because she's in such demand with personal appearances and endorsements, she has no time to go to school.
Right. It looks like she's pushing a little bit. She's coming off of both corners pretty high, but hanging right there with Kanaan.
Yeah, but Sarah Fischer with the big smile right there rides in second position. Catherine Evans is third, then Giafone and Schechter. We still have a lot of racing to go here at Phoenix. Well,
closes it up down the back straightaway. Watch right here. Every time going right through here, she really gains on him and has that momentum all the way down that back straightaway.
Well, Tony makes one slight slip that would give Sarah the chance to duck under him. This place will totally erupt.
The fans will go absolutely wild. You can see they're all standing up right now. That's unreal. Boy, oh boy. Sarah Fischer, and she didn't even have a ride. She wasn't supposed to run at Miami. She wasn't sure she was going to run here until just a week ago. Doesn't have a ride for sure in Indianapolis. But if she gets around Tony Kanaan, believe me, she'll have a ride in Indianapolis, and probably even if she doesn't.
Well, she won or finished second, we should say, at Homestead in 2001, and got a pole position last year at Kentucky.
Well, she's definitely a racer. You know, you hear a lot of things said about some of the drivers, the lady drivers, and whether they are true racers or not. Well, I think she's certainly proven to one and all that she has come to race. She's very committed. Her family, you know, they were very committed to her too. They helped her a lot through her early years. Look at the run she gets off there. She's faster down that back straightaway simply because she's getting so well through turns 1 and 2.
Again, racing in quarter midgets first, then moved to karts, where she was the World Karting Association Grand Champion back in '91. Won a karting championship again with the World Karting Association in '92 and again in '93. So she had like 4 straight years when she won World Karting Association titles.
I'd like to hear what she's telling her crew right now, because they've got to be a very happy group. Once again, she's not getting through 3 and 4 nearly.
There's a yellow spin, and that is Jacques Lazier, the 7th yellow of the afternoon on one lap 153, and that was for Lazier's spin.
Being told that Scott Sharp also involved in this, so
that's the second time Scott's been in an altercation this afternoon.
Yeah, a lot of activity down there in turns 1 and 2 today.
Now under the yellow, though, you know, Sarah can duck in here if everybody else pits, and she can duck in and still have a position up in front.
Well, that's true. If everybody else does pit, we'll see what happens.
Let's see if we can
you can see right there the spin on the right side of your screen.
Oh, Scott was ever so close. In fact, he was involved in a crash right in that spot last season, as Lazier spins but continues on. Now let's watch from this angle.
That looks very much like the
car right in front of the yellow car. There he's spinning. Scott.
Well, Jacques Lazier spinning and causing our 7th yellow caution period of the afternoon in Phoenix. And we can go back then to Phoenix now. These are live pictures. We are on our 7th caution period, and the big discussion at trackside and here in the studio is whether Tony Kanaan will pit. If he does, Sarah Fischer will follow him in, and then everyone will be on the same strategy to the end of this race. It's drama indeed in Phoenix. I have to say that there's a lot of excitement down in pit lane. Sarah Fischer has come into pit lane, and it looked to me like Tony Kanaan elected to stay out. Paul Cherry, this is a team owner, team manager's nightmare, the strategy for this race today.
Well, at the end of the day, you've got to get to the end of the race, and you need fuel, and they've done the smart thing.
Oh, what's happened there? What's happened there? A front wheel has come off. Has a front wheel, that front left wheel look a bit... Well, you have to say that is a disaster. The front left wheel hasn't gone on properly, and Sarah Fischer finds herself with a mistake in pit lane. I mean, the young lady will be absolutely beside herself. She's driving brilliantly, and that has cost her... How many times do we see this in a pit lane hurry, Paul Cherry? I mean, you've been a team owner, you've been a team manager. It's a disaster.
It's one of those things that sadly, you know, it's never going to not happen because you're under pressure. These guys there, the car comes in, they know it's got to be out as quick as possible. Sometimes things feel tight and they're not tight. We saw it last year, we'll see it this year and the year after.
I'd like to see what the headline for that would be, Lawrence, in Autosport.
I've actually just been looking at these as a rough calculation. Kanaan has done 45 laps now on this fuel load. We've got 55 to go. If we get a couple more yellows, Kanaan should last until the end.
Well, that's an interesting situation, but we've just been watching there exactly what happened, and the wheelman definitely had his hand up to say that you couldn't go at that particular point, and the guy in front obviously didn't have his eyes in his head and wasn't peripheral vision-wise, wasn't checking out what the rest of the team was doing. So a bit of a slap on the wrist for him, and bad luck for Sarah Fischer. We'll come back to your calculations in just a moment or two, because I think we're going to go green in a minute. And let's go back to the track then live and hear what the commentators trackside have to make of it all.
"45 laps to go, our 7th yellow of the afternoon. And that was for that Lazier spin. There was some very slight contact with Scott Sharp. Scott really had no place to go.
That was Robbie Buell pulling in there.
Buell's like 2 laps off the pace right now. That's Sarah's teammate.
He's going to pull in.
Actually, he's a part owner of this race team with Dennis Reinbold. Dennis has a BMW car dealership in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Now, the interesting thing is that Sarah Fischer is not going to be able to pass all these guys to get back up and win this race. So if everybody is correct and they don't have to make any pit stops, they can make it to the end of the race, then she's going to finish back at 8th, 9th, 10th, somewhere back in there. But if they do have to pick a pit stop, then she has a great chance to win this thing.
Well, right now your leader Tony Kanaan, I'm sure, will have to make a pit stop because there are 44 laps to go, and that means he would go 90 laps without a pit stop, and I don't think he can go 90 laps.
Well,
the other drivers would have to go about 80.
I can tell you right now that Tony Kanaan and his pit crew are betting that they're not going to have to make a pit stop. If they weren't betting that way, they would have made their pit stop right there. All those guys are not planning on pitting.
Well, you take a look at the furl flag right there from Brian Howard, 1 lap to go, and Johnny Rutherford, the 3-time Indy 500 champion, will pull the Corvette pace car off the track. Still have 16 cars out there running. Robbie Buell is 2 laps off the lead. Shigeatori is also a lap back, and then Sarah Fischer is at the rear of the lead lap in 14th position.
Yeah, and she would have been, if she hadn't had that trouble, she would have probably been up around 10th position instead of 14th.
But it could have been a lot worse than what it was. She didn't lose a full lap. It was under yellow, and she caught it. About to go back to racing here at Phoenix as they complete 158 circuits. And your leader is still Tony Kanaan. He has led since an earlier yellow at lap 119. He has Castroneves right behind him, then Giafoni, then Schechter, then DeFerrin. There's Schechter back there in car 10, right behind him. Looks to the high side, and Schechter makes a move on the high side.
Look at this, Castroneves to the outside.
Castroneves side by side through turn 4.
Oh,
contact.
Man,
contact again.
Castroneves trying to intimidate him a little bit by trying to pull down. Kanaan was having none of it and stayed right where he was, but they did make very slight contact at least twice coming off the 4 and down the straightaway.
Scoring actually gave Castroneves credit for taking the lead, but now, whoa, can you hold your breath that long?
Oh, man, that was pretty close. Castroneves did everything but crash both of them trying to make that pass. Kanaan wasn't going to be scared that easy, and he hung right in there.
And Giafoni had his hands full of the target car, as now DeFerrin goes to the high side of Schechter.
Tried it down into 3 and 4. That's the same place Schechter tried to get around Giafone a while ago.
Good guys, they want a yellow for a pit stop, but they don't want to create the yellow.
That's Franchitti's, the other blue car, back in that that mess. So all of those guys running in 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, all very close to each other.
Sarah Fischer has moved up 1 position, has gotten around Lazier. She's now in 13th, tucked in behind Scott Sharp.
Now then Kanaan has pulled out into over a 1 second lead, as I think Giafone, or I mean Castroneves, had to kind of catch his breath after they did that little bit of wheel banging down the front straightaway.
It has to be difficult, Larry, at this speed when you make the contact to put it behind you, to ignore it and go on and not lose your rhythm.
Well, you know, those guys, that's as hard as you're going to see anybody race another driver on this racetrack. You can't run any harder than that. You can't try any harder than that. You can't be any closer than that. And neither one of them would give in. Kanaan had the inside line. That's the preferred line. And as long as you can hang in there, you're going to win.
One of the cars started to spray. Buddy Lazier is off the pace and in the pits, but another car was showing some spray down the front straightaway. And it is Franchitti bringing out the 8th yellow of the afternoon. Dario Franchitti blew up, and that brings out the 8th yellow of the afternoon.
He's going to pull into the pits in the back straightaway and get off of the racetrack so that they can run as many green flag laps as they can. But you can see a lot of smoke out of the back of that car. So Franchitti, that's a couple of engines we've seen let go here, and normally you wouldn't, you don't see a lot of that at this racetrack.
Well, so now we're under yellow on lap 166. We still have 34 laps to go, and Tony Kanaan continues to lead the way here at Phoenix. Well, now will they take advantage of this yellow and come in?
I don't think so. I think they're all betting that they can make it to the end. With the yellow flag laps, they're figuring they're going to get, you know, a lot more than 2.5 miles a gallon running around there this slow.
Now, this should be a short yellow, though.
Yes, it should. But I just don't think we're going to see them pit now. I think they've all made their bed, so to speak, and they're going to stay out there and you know, live with whatever happens. And every lap that they run under yellow helps Tony Kanaan's position more and more.
Well, I'll tell you, at the beginning of this race, Larry, had someone said someone could go 90 laps on a tank of fuel, neither one of us would believe it, even with yellows.
Well, they were saying that these guys with the Toyotas and Hondas were getting
2.2, 2.3.
Yeah,
2.4.
well, but and some of them even said they might be getting 2.5. So at that rate, they could go at 2.5 miles per gallon. They could go 87.5 laps. Well, with 87.5 and a few.
That's if they're getting 2.5, though.
That's if they're getting 2.5. That's right. If they're only getting 2.2, then they can't go that many. And there you see Dario Franchitti
takes the long walk back. Race drivers normally get a lot of attention in the pit area, but everybody's looking for his wife. Actually, Judd, the actress, gets more attention than he does.
You were commenting earlier on one of the sheets that we had that gave every driver's wife's first name except hers.
Hers. They put down Ashley Judd.
Right.
Of course, her mom and sister are both country singers here in America. As you look back from the side pod of Kanaan's leading number 11, that was his teammate that just blew up and took the long walk back to the pit area. So Franchitti is off and out of the race. Andretti, the other teammate, is back in 7th.
Yeah, we have a.
So remaining under yellow, 167 laps now complete. 33 laps to go, and they're all rolling the dice. They can go the distance on this tank of fuel. Tony Kanaan, Castroneves, Giafone, Schechter, DeFerrin, Al Unser up to 6th position.
Yeah, we have a Honda leading, and then the next 4 or 5 cars all Toyotas. So
we'll tell you also that Sarah Fischer has moved up 2 positions after that restart to 12th. She's tucked in right behind Scott Sharp, and of course they're all jammed up now into the yellow behind the pace car, but this will play into her advantage as far as closing the gap between the front runners. Apparently one more lap before we go green.
Yeah.
Well, now we're hearing that Farron is going to pit. Farron in third position.
That's really surprising. It must have been a handling issue. He should have changed tires. It was a handling issue and not a fuel issue, I believe, is the reason he's pitted, because that's going to drop him back to at least 12th position. And he must have had a problem other than fuel, because I think most of these guys feel that they're going to be okay and can make it to the end. Look at Kanaan. He's picked it up a little bit because he wants to catch DeFerrin as far behind as he can. He's no fool. He's going to make.
Well, they're coming around for the start.
That's right. They're coming around for the start. He picked it up way early this time.
All right, there's the start. Lap 169 now complete. They're working lap 170. 30 laps to go. Look at this move. Contact. It's Schechter.
Schechter and Giaffoni. Schechter did exactly the same thing the last time around. Didn't make it around. This time he got out there and he and Giaffoni made contact, and that's the end of his day. And Tony Kanaan saying, boy, you're making this pretty easy on me. My fuel's going to last a long time.
Well, yeah, if we keep going under yellow like this will be a little longer yellow than the last one.
Yeah, 40 laps to go, but man, that was a case where there just wasn't enough racetrack. Schechter on the outside, Kanaan on the inside, or not Kanaan, but Giaffoni on the inside. And they just made slight contact. Well, when you have contact on a racetrack like this and you're on the outside, you're going to be the loser. There's no question that the guy on the inside is going to win every time.
You see how far out the race car ended up after the contact. The pits are now open. You see the pace car start to pick up the pace as the field starts to gather behind that Corvette pace car. As we'll take a look at replay here, Larry, on this restart.
This goes to the outside, and as they come off of the corner, as they start drifting up, you know, Giaffoni's coming up. He can't hold the car down. And at the same time, Schechter is trying to make the corner. He's coming down the racetrack a little bit, and then they just make contact. Right front to left rear. Ooh, he gave him a little boot up in the air, too. He made hard contact with that wall at the left side of the car.
Slides past the wall out there to what used to be part of that drag strip.
And there's really no way to tell on something like that who's coming up the racetrack, who's coming down the racetrack, because everything happens so fast. I'm sure.
But I can't really blame the engine. On the last restart, I was downshifting to fourth to get a good run out of turn 2 here, and the gearbox misselected and got third. So I over-revved on the downshift because of that. So in fairness to the engine, you know, I don't think it was a traditional engine failure. It was caused by that, the misshift, but it's a shame because we had a pretty good run going today.
Dario, let's talk for a moment about your teammate, Tony Kanaan, running on a fuel conservation effort. Michael already has some understeer problems from a confrontation he had with Thomas Schechter. How tough is it when your crew tells you, hey, you got to conserve fuel, especially when you got someone like Helio Castroneves all over your rear wing?
It's fairly tough. It's definitely a juggling act there. You've got to get the balance just right, but I think Tony's a man for the job today. I'm hoping so anyway.
There's a teammate pulling for another teammate, guys.
Well, indeed, it is a fuel conservation run for Tony Kanaan. It's been 61 laps since his last fuel stop. And as we have documented, Larry Rice, he will have to go 30 or 90 laps total. And this type of activity certainly helps that fuel economy.
Yeah, it certainly does. It makes everything a lot easier for him. Every yellow flag lap that they run just increases his chances of making it to the end. And you know, when everybody else turns up the wick at the end, you know, he probably will be able to as well.
Well, this may be not that long of a yellow. They quickly are getting the track cleaned off. We can take it. DeFerrin got out of the pits, and he now is running at the back of the lead lap in 11th position. Fischer is 10th. Sharp is 9th. Jacques Lazier, after his spin earlier, is 8th. Rice is 7th. There's a look at Castroneves, who's currently in 2nd position. I'll tell you that Andretti is now 6th, then Brack, then Unser. Look at Al Unser Jr. is up to 4th position.
Boy, what a job he's done. We haven't seen a lot of him on the racetrack, but he's certainly soldiered away out there, driven a great race. And, you know, for starting so far back, he gained a lot of spots early, and then he kind of hung around 9th, 10th, 11th. But every time somebody in front of him does something silly, he moves up a spot.
Look at the Hollywood car, Giaffoni. Of course, this is really a second career for Al. He had a number of tough years there with his daughter's illness, his divorce, and he admitted last season that he was going to take some time off to go to a a rehab center for a drinking problem. He was out of the race car for a few races. And Tony Renna was the driver for Team Kelly. There's a look at Kenny Breck, currently in 5th position. He has won here in the past. Of course, the past winner of the Indy 500. He won here in 1998. And he would anticipate a relatively short yellow for a crash. There's Michael Andretti, who led for a while back in 6th position. He got himself out of the pit sequence early on. We are getting a report from Giafoni's crew that everything is okay with the Hollywood number 21 car to the contact with Thomas Scheckter.
Well, he'll know better after they get back up to speed. I don't think he's really 100% sure at this point.
There's Buddy Rice in 7th position. It is tough, though, after contact like that, to take that green flag and haul her down in there and not really be sure.
Yeah, you're going to see Castroneves. He is really going to make an effort here to get around Kanaan.
Well, the team for Tony Kanaan says we think we can make it, but when the team says we think we can make it, there's a huge question mark.
Well, that's right. And look at Kenny Brack. He went to the inside down there, tried to make a move on Al Unser Jr. Couldn't make it stick, and he got on the brakes and backed out. He didn't try to stick his nose in there. He kind of thought, well, still got a few laps to go. I'll wait till next time.
Well, there's 25 laps to go as you quickly got a glimpse there of DeFerrin going around Fischer.
Oh, he's on the outside of Sharp up there. That was very close back there to the top of your screen.
About one more yellow period, and it's going to allow Kanaan to stretch that fuel out.
Yeah, and DeFerrin, obviously with new tires, he's going to be in better shape. You mentioned that Andretti got new tires, so he was going to have fresher tires than everybody else. Well, so is Gilles DeFerrin right now, so we'll see if that pays off for him.
A most eventful day for Gilles DeFerrin. He spun on lap 2, went to the back of the pack, and has been able to work his way back up into the top 5 and just made that pit stop. And right now, DeFerrin is being shown in 8th position, so he is on the fly. There is a look at Jacques Lazier in number 2 as Scott Sharp had a look to the inside, but did not have the momentum to go on around as he entered turn 3. Down the front straightaway.
Into turn 1 and 2.
Sharp, Lazier, DeFerrin up there in front of Lazier, and then it's Buddy Rice. Now DeFerrin has gotten around Buddy Rice.
You can hear the throttle. You can hear how long he's out of that throttle. He's really not having a very good handling race car right now.
DeFerrin now is up to 7th position as you look back from Jacques Lazier's car back to Sharp, and right behind Sharp is Sarah Fischer. Sharp is 10th, Sarah is 11th. Sarah is the last driver on the lead lap. She ran 2nd for a number of laps till she had to make that pit stop.
Look at Kanaan. I mean, he's supposed to be in the fuel conservation mood, and he's still pulling away
He's
from
2
everybody.
seconds ahead right now of Castroneves, a full 3 seconds ahead of Giafoni, and 4 seconds ahead of Unser.
Well, if he's taking it easy, he's sure going to be hell to pay when he starts really standing on it,
Well,
let me tell you.
I tell you, that car must be just spot on as far as the handling.
Yeah, it's almost perfect. There you can see that Giafoni,
Giafoni
Brack,
has gotten around Castroneves.
These guys, man, that's DeFerrin
That's
there.
DeFerrin. We're
He's
showing
already
DeFerrin.
coming up on Kenny Brack behind him.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get around Brack. So he's moved up several positions. He's up to 7th after being back in 12th just not long ago.
That's Andretti in front of that battle. That's Andretti. Michael now in the 5th position. Then Brack, then DeFerrin, then Rice, Lazier, Sharp, and Fischer. All on the lead lap. Lap 184. There goes DeFerrin to the inside and quickly squeezes by Brack and moves to 6th position.
Yeah, he's picked him off pretty quick here since.
Can you imagine though, had he not spun on lap 2, he could have been long gone.
Well, and he was running in 3rd position and decided to come in and get new tires. So obviously he knew something. He knew that the tires were going to go away because when you give up 3rd and go back to 12th, you have to have an awfully good reason to take that many track positions away from yourself. He is the fastest race car on the racetrack right now. He's really got he's got that thing cranked up. Now then, ooh!
Oh, he looks to the inside of Andretti. Could not make the move. Thought better of it. This is the battle for 5th position.
And I said he was the fastest car on the racetrack. I rescind that. Tony Kanaan is still the fastest car on the racetrack. But he's the fastest car back here amongst these guys. Now then he's going to...
Oh, and there's another yellow. Both cars into the wall. A big burst of flames as the oil tank erupts. And the yellow is out for the 10th time this afternoon.
And I started to say now Andretti's going to have to give him room, but he did not.
And that's the same spot he tried to pass him earlier. We're looking for movement from both the race cars. A hard impact against the outside wall. And this could be a lengthy yellow. And this could give Kanaan the win under the yellow.
Yeah.
187 laps now complete. That's a huge impact.
That's one of the very fastest places on the racetrack going into turn 1. You've just come through that big sweeper down in 3 and 4, and it was right at the entrance to turns 1 and 2. And they came together. I'm not sure. I don't think Michael thought DeFerrin was going to put that move on him, and he came down the racetrack. There was contact, and both of them went right into the wall, went extremely hard into the wall.
Well, Michael radioed his crew and said, I am okay. So he is climbing out with some assistance. It was a hard impact.
Yeah, you can see he's a little wobbly. He's not.
The crash like this kind of underscores, yeah, I'm retiring. I like that idea.
Well, hey, you think that's a joke, but it's not a joke. That's exactly right.
You're 40 years old.
When you're 40 years old, you don't recover from a crash like that like you did when you were 22 or 23 years old.
Keep in mind, DeFerrin had a big crash second to the last race of the year last year and had a concussion that kept him out of the last race.
Yeah.
They are calling for a backboard for Jill, so a heavy impact. So this is going to be a lengthy yellow, and we could see this race end under the yellow flag as Michael looks back over the damage and talks to the emergency crew.
Yeah, there's 12 laps to go, and it's this is going to be a long. He gets a big run on. Look, he gets a big run. He's going up to. They were over the wheel, and I just don't think Michael had any idea he was there. He didn't see him in the mirror.
But realistically, he tried the same spot the last lap. Now watch. You tell me Michael doesn't know he's there?
Well, he was awful far up. I'm not sure what happened, but Michael turned into the corner and didn't.
I mean, they basically were wheel to wheel, side by side at that point.
You have to remember, things are happening so fast in that race car. I mean, it's easy for us to see the side of them,
but I'm questioning though that the last lap, Jill tried the same move.
Right.
Could not get up alongside. He did the very same thing this, and look how far up he is on Michael.
Yeah, he was pretty far up. Look how hard Michael hits that thing a ton. He really, and so does Gilles.
Well, he goes in backwards though.
Yeah, and backwards
is worse, I think, than going in forwards.
It's worse because they have an attenuator that absorbs some of that energy from the back, and he didn't hit directly from the back. But you've got a solid engine, you've got a solid gearbox. All those solid things don't absorb the energy like the other things do.
That attenuator says that it will collect like 80 Gs, but still you've got that solid. Beyond the attenuator, you've got the gearbox, the engine, as you said, and that's a hard impact.
All those things do not absorb much. They transfer that energy right to your body.
So 190 laps are complete. We have 10 laps to go. The yellow remains out here at Phoenix. They are taking the field down through that pit exit lane that merges with the track on the backstretch. Now the crew is still working. We mentioned they called for a backboard. As Tony Kanaan has had a chance to go by and check out the damage. His teammate was involved, Michael Andretti. And of course, Michael radioed his crew and said, I'm okay. You know, the crew then called Tony and said, your teammate is okay. And we're waiting on word from the safety crew about Gilles DeFerrin.
I think this race is going to end under yellow. I don't see how they can get him out of that car and everything off the racetrack in time to go back to green flag.
Yeah, because they can't even start the cleanup until they remove DeFerrin from the car, and we have just over 9 laps to go. DeFerrin is on a board and being removed from the car. They'll get him to the ambulance and to the infield care center. We are far enough away from Phoenix that generally an injury is transported by helicopter from this racetrack.
They do have a helicopter. They will transport him by air right directly to the hospital and check him out there.
Well, they continue to work with him.
Yeah, tough break for him.
And we remain under yellow here at Phoenix with some 9 laps to go. Live coverage of the Copper World Indy 200 as we hope to hear from Thomas Scheckter, who brought out the yellow on lap 170 when he made contact with Giafone over there in turn 2.
They do have Stefarin out of the car. He's on the stretcher. You've got him out on the backboard. They're going to take him in perhaps. Well,
he just gave the crowd a thumbs up, which is always a good sign.
That's always a good sign. But I'm sure he took a hard enough lick. They're going to take him into the medical center. Then they'll probably transport him because he took a very, very hard hit. But it's a great, great sign that he's able to move and giving everybody the thumbs ups. He's obviously conscious. So that's very good.
Now they can start the cleanup. And Larry, we're at lap 192. They're working on lap 193. And I don't. This is a good safety crew, but I'm not sure they can get it cleaned up to give us even more than maybe a lap or two at most.
This is the best safety crew in the country, in my opinion. They're very, very good. But you're right. To get all that off of there, it's going to be almost impossible to do in less than 8 laps.
Well, Tony Kanaan started from the pole position, won his 2nd straight pole. And he's led from lap 119. We hope to hear from Thomas Scheckter momentarily.
He just came up here. He had a big smile on his face. He was very encouraging. We had that radio report about that's why you're here, to go racing. How encouraging to you as a driver to know that your team cheers you on when you have to try to make one of those passes?
Well, we were 4th and Chip goes racing to win, so do I, and it was a good move. It wasn't a bad move, and you know, it's just unfortunate Felipe clipped me on the rear because I think we had a car that could have won a race.
Now you get ready for your next event over at Twin Ring Motegi. I know you're excited about the opportunity there on a bigger racetrack.
Definitely. I think maybe it'll suit my style a little bit more, but everybody in the team is so positive. Everybody at Target have done a great job, and Toyota's given me good power.
Sure looked like a top 5 today for you. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Mentioned going to Japan. It's a 1.5-mile oval. We'll be there in 3 weeks from this weekend. We'll be live on the air. Motegi will provide the next outing, our first time outside the United States, and of course the annual running of the Indianapolis 500, and then the first of 2 races at Fort Worth. That's a night race. Then Pikes Peak, Richmond's a night race, Kansas City, Nashville, Brooklyn, Michigan. First time up there for the Indy Racing League on that high bank 2-mile oval. And Madison, Illinois, Sparta, Kentucky, Nazareth, Joliet, Fontana, California. We wrap up the season in October at Fort Worth. But as you see, a lot of damage to those race cars, and tell you what, they have to get those things repaired because they have to get those back to Indianapolis, get them repaired, and ship them to Japan.
Yeah, I imagine they'll take the backup cars. I don't think they're going to get those repaired in time. They could, but I just doubt it. But you could tell from Thomas Schechter's comments whose fault he thought the crash was. He says, I thought it was a good move. I thought we had enough room, but Giafone clipped me. So it was obvious that he feels like Giafone was at fault in that crash, which if I think
very, very seldom does a driver say that somebody else is by fault.
I bet you a $1 to a donut that if you talk to a Giafone right now, he'd say, well, he came down on me.
$1 to a donut is an American phrase that nobody else in the world's ever heard of.
Okay, well, I would.
That means it's just a real sure bet that Giafone is going to blame the other driver.
Right, I would be willing to bet that Giafone does not see it the same way.
But on a track like this, I mean, you're going to go back and perhaps discuss whose fault it was this last crash.
Like I said, everything happens so fast here, and you're making judgments, and you're in thousands.
This is not a real wide racetrack either.
No, everything is very narrow here. You know, 2 abreast here, especially we saw DeFerrin go 3 abreast a while ago, and how they ever made it through there, I'll never know. But it's such a difficult racetrack that you've got to be very lucky. You've got to make those moves. You've got to do what Scheckter did if you want to win the race. We said it earlier in the broadcast. If you want to win, you've got to take some chances here. He He took a chance. It didn't pay off for him, but he was not going to finish third or second if he didn't take
This
chance.
racetrack is the same width, the same configuration it was in 1964, and Parnelli Jones was on the pole with a speed of 114.8 miles an hour.
Seemed a lot wider then, I'll bet.
And this week our pole speed was over 178 miles an hour.
Right, and that's what we talked about earlier. The entrance into the pit area is so bad here because they have not made that wider, and it's very, very tough to get into the pits under green flag conditions.
We are hearing now from timing and scoring, they are trying to get the race started with 2 laps to go. We'll have a 2-lap trophy dash, perhaps.
Always better to end a race under green than it is under yellow. Nobody wants to see it end under yellow. I don't think there's anybody there that can beat Kanaan right now. He is, unless he makes a mistake on the restart, which is possible.
Or Castroneves or Giafone sticks his nose down in there.
Well, that's right. Castroneves is certainly going to do everything he can to make that difference. He's going to take a chance. Like we just said a few seconds ago, you don't win races at Phoenix unless you take a chance.
Let's applaud the safety crew because they had the track cleaned up. That was one of the biggest hits we've had this afternoon. They got the track cleaned up, and we are going to go green the next time by.
They actually got that cleaned up. This was lap 197. It was 192 when they put him in the ambulance. So in 5 laps, they got this cleaned up and off the track. That is pretty phenomenal.
We'll have a 2-lap shootout. Let's see if he picks up the throttle early this time like he did the last time.
He sure did. And Kenny and Castroneves has lost a lot of ground to him. He picked it up real early.
Look at Giafone. He looks to the inside of Castroneves, doesn't have the room to make the move. Yeah. White flag will be unfurled the next time by. And Larry, I think you're right. I don't think anybody's going to catch Tony Kanaan.
Well, Tony Kanaan, he had the fastest race car. He knew if he had a good restart, he was going to win this race. So he made sure he got a good restart by getting into the throttle, going into turn 3. He didn't give anybody any kind of a chance to get a jump on him.
There's the white flag, 1 lap to go. They're not going to catch him unless he's out of fuel.
Yeah, no, he's not going to run out of fuel. Too many yellow flag laps during these last 90 laps. He's going to coast and collect in this last corner.
Through 3 into turn 4. Off the corner, dual checkered flags from Brian Howard, and Tony Kanaan goes from the pole position to victory lane here at Phoenix. Castroneves goes in second, Giafone third. Al Unser, good ride for Little Al. Back in fourth, then Kenny Brack, Lazier, Jacques Lazier, Sharp, Fischer, and Rice.
So Tony Kanaan converts that pole position into a race win here today in Phoenix. What a fantastic race it turned out to be. 10 yellow flags. Paul Cherry, not an easy race to win. Tony Kanaan, though, came out strong in the end.
No, it's a bit like Wimbledon on Demolition Derby night, but it was a good, strong race. I mean, there were a lot of players in there, and all the engines were featured well, and all the chassis featured well. So a good race, I think.
A lot of money, though, to be spent over the next week or two to repair some of the vehicles today. Luckily, I can tell you that we did get a thumbs up from Gilles de Ferran as he was put into the ambulance. So good news from that, because that was a big crash.
That was a big crash. I mean, the problem is side by side here doesn't work because the groove doesn't remain constant. We've seen the changes of width on the track, so something is always bound to happen.
Well, an all-Brazilian top 3 then. That's about it for today. Some fast and furious action at Phoenix. And congratulations, of course, to our winner, Tony Kanaan. The 3rd round of the series, the Indy Japan 300, is scheduled to take place in 3 weeks' time at Japan's most modern track, the Twin Ring Motegi. This should be the IRL's first ever race outside the United States. There have been suggestions that the race may be postponed because of the war in Iraq, but currently we understand that the race will be run. We'll bring you the race on the morning of Sunday, 13th of April at 8:30 a.m. and of course that will be live on Sky Sports 3. That's the Indy Japan 300, April the 13th, 8:30 a.m. in the morning from Twin Ring Motegi. So let's hope that the race does go ahead, of course. Meanwhile, my thanks to our guests, Paul Cherry and Lawrence Foster. And, of course, to you for watching. I know there were some other motor racing options today, so let's just remind ourselves of what makes the Indy Racing League your preferred viewing. Good night.